It's good to hear your voice, my brother.
Yeah, same to me, my brother. Same to me. Are you well?
No, I'm well. I'm healthy. I'm blessed,
Yeah.
and I'm still around.
No, that's good.
Now we'll talk now.
Yeah, we'll talk now. You still have that red car of yours, that beautiful car.
It used to be red. It's now yellow.
Ah, yeah. Oh, yeah, I see.
Yeah, sharp.
Sure, thanks, my brother.
Sure.
Chairperson.
Yes, Braking.
I think we can start. Do we have the quorum?
Thank you. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning. Delegation from the Auditor
Recording
General.
in progress.
We have got the agenda before us. The first item is opening, welcome, and purpose of the meeting. You are warmly welcome into today's meeting. The purpose of the meeting is to get briefing by the Auditor General of South Africa on the 2021 22 performance and audit outcomes of the Department of Small Business Development and Small Entrepreneurs Development Agency, Seda. So without any waste of time, I'll zoom to item 2, which is roll call and apologies. I'll request King to present apologies if ever there is any. Over to you, Bra King.
Thank you, Chairperson. You'll bear with me, I've got a flu, I'm coughing. However, Chairperson, I have received an apology from Honorable Mieni, who indicated that he is joining having the by what elections in his area. Excuse me. Hence he sent an apology. Also the apology from the department, though it was not that much needed for the minister to be present, because the portfolio committee is getting the outcomes from the auditors, which is Auditor General of South Africa, as well as SNG Grant Thornton, who is auditing Sefa. In the platform, Chairperson, I've got you, Chairperson, Honorable Jacobs, Honorable April, Honorable Hendricks, Honorable Batulelwa, excuse me, Honorable Mtenjane, Honorable Zungula, Honorable Kruger, Honorable De Villiers, and Honorable Tromelang. Those are the members who are in the platform so far, Chair. I'd like also to welcome Honorable Kruger, who is back from abroad. So those are the members that are in the platform, Chair. And then we do also have members from the department, officials from the department, officials from the entities, and then we are also having officials from SNG, Grant Thornton, and then officials from Auditor General of South Africa. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Bra King. Now move to the next item, which is adoption of the agenda. Can I have a mover for the adoption of the agenda, honorable members?
Chairperson is the usual suspect, Honorable April, always moving on adoption of the agenda.
Thank you, Honorable April. Any seconder, honorable members?
Thank you. This is Honorable De Villiers. I will gladly second.
Thank you, Honorable De Villiers. We'll now move to the next item, which is consideration and adoption of 2022 fourth term committee program. Over to you, Bra King.
Apologies for my cough. Chairperson and honorable members, we are entering the last quarter of the year, which is the fourth term, according to parliamentary framework, which is starting today on the 11th of October, and it will be ending on the 2nd of December, which gives us about 8 weeks for the committee to sit. Then this term, it prioritizes the development of the BRRR, that is budget review and development, budget review and recommendations report, whereby the committee analyzes the performance of the department and the entities to develop that report. So hence, this week has been assigned for getting the briefings from the different from the department and different auditors. So today, Chairperson, as we're having the Auditor General of South Africa will be presenting the 21-22 annual report of the department and of Seda. And we're going to also have the SizweNtsalubaGobodo auditors who are doing the Sefa, auditing Sefa. And then tomorrow, Wednesday, the 12th, we're going to get the briefings on the annual performances, the reports of the department together with the entities. Then on the 19th of October, we are going to be considering the report that has been developed by the Secretariat. And then we are also going to get the report on the petition that the committee was considering, because we are supposed to be done with the BRRR by the 21st of October. So the committee, we have planned that we consider it and adopt it on the 19th of October. Then on the 26th of October, we are checking the Banking Association of South Africa together with the National Treasury on the capital development markets for the SMMEs. Then on the 2nd of November, we'll be having a small enterprise stakeholders engagement, opportunities posed by the climate change for small enterprises. Then on the 9th of November, we'll be hoping to have the Pick and Pay on the customized enterprise and supply development solutions. Then on the 16th of November, we'll be trying to get hold of the Red Tape Reduction Task Team in the presidency. 23rd of November, impact of non-compliance of government department on 30 days payment, of invoices, and what impact does it pose to small enterprises, where we're looking at having the Public Service Commission as well as Treasury. And then on the 30th of November, we'll be planning to have the quarter 2, 2022-23, quarter 2 performance report of the department and entities, which then that will mark the end of the term with those meetings. So, Chairperson, I would like to present and move for the adoption of the Term 4 committee program.
Thank you. Thank you, Braking. Here's the presentation, honorable members, of the fourth term. It has been presented before us. Any comment? He has also moved for the adoption of this program.
There's a hand from Honorable Jacobs.
Honorable Jacobs.
And Honorable Zungule.
Honorable Jacobs.
Good morning, my chair, and greetings to all the members and everybody on the platform. Greetings again. Before I adopt, Chair, I just wanted to ask one question. In our last quarter, we as this portfolio committee said that we want to do the legislation. So I just want to know if the Secretariat has considered how and when are we going to factor in the legislative processes. I would like to ask members if we can at least have 1 or 2 sessions in this program. I know it's quite busy, but if the Secretariat can go back and accommodate the bill process and having us at least have 2 or 3 sessions as this portfolio committee to implement the decision we made last quarter. Chair, with that, I want to move that we adopt this agenda for the next 4th term. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Zungula.
Thank you, Chairperson. Greetings to yourself and all of the honorable members. Mine, Chairperson, it's to just maybe propose that perhaps the programs for the quarter, maybe they must be balanced. They must take into account meetings with entities, oversight, meetings with the department and legislation. So I would propose that maybe the Secretariat looks into having a balanced program that does have oversight to the entities, that does have one or two sessions that deals with the legislation, as well as the other meetings with the department and the entities. Also, Chair, I think even if we try once in the quarter or one week in the quarter, just to meet physically in one of the meeting rooms that are still available in Cape Town. So that's what I wanted to raise. Thank you.
Thank you. I think your request is straightforward. I will request SMO to respond, but you are saying one and the same thing on the issue of legislation. I would like them to respond on the issue of oversight, because we are being controlled by the House Chairperson or the Chair of Chairs on a number of issues. I think this proposal was made before, because we wanted to do oversight physically as well as oversight virtually. But we're carrying that instruction from the House Chair, but I would allow them to respond.
Mr. Chair, Madam Chair.
Hello.
Chair.
Yes.
Yes, it's group.
Before Mosisto can respond, Chair, there's also a hand from Honorable Kruger.
Okay, Honorable Kruger.
And Honorable Jacobs.
Okay. Honorable Kruger, the stage is yours, and then I will invite Honorable Kruger. Then later, SBU will respond on issues of administration. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I hope I'm audible, because I'm on a new gadget, so I hope everything sound-wise is
we
good.
can hear you.
Madam Chair.
Can hear you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I also are in agreement with the last two of my colleagues. I think it's important that we address that matters. I also want to ask the Secretary to look at a day or two that we can just talk about cooperatives, because I think cooperatives at the moment are drinking on the our weeskinders. We're not talking about them. There's no specific strategy following it. And maybe, Madam Chair, with your permission, we must look at the study tour where cooperatives is implemented very successfully and creating a lot of jobs for our people. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Jacobs.
Thank you, Chair, for another bite. Yes, I agree with all my previous colleagues. So we must do cooperatives, we must do physical oversight, and we must also deal with the bills. The fourth thing that I want the Secretariat to consider is the township economy. Given the pronouncements of the new Premier of Gauteng and the new MEC in KZN, and the focus on township economies, and also ensuring that spaza shops are owned by South Africans, that came through, we as this portfolio committee must engage in this topical debate around inclusive shared township economies and the growth. So we'd want to hear from those provinces what they are doing and see how we can replicate it in the other parts of the country. So, Chair, in short, I'm motivating for both the cooperatives and the township economy must be slotted in. So we're going to be very busy, but I think all members are geared. So if the Secretariat can also equal the pace that members are asking us to do. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. SMO, can you come in? These are administrative issues.
Hey, morning, Chair. Morning, Chair. Am I audible, Parking?
Yes.
Sorry, Chair and Smo. So we are audible, Mr. Kumete. It's just that I've just seen the hand of Honorable Mteja, and maybe I was thinking that if we can just get
Okay.
all
Let
members.
him come in.
Yeah.
Let him come in.
Well, thank you very much, Chairperson, your colleagues and the General. Chairperson, mine will be very short. I wonder if also I'm not necessarily out of the topic here. I just want to check here, Chair, if we can maybe find a space somewhere to call it department so that we can account here to tell us about the issue of the pandemic, the load shedding, because we all know that it does affect our small businesses. So we want to know what is their take on this? Are they small businesses a payment holiday or not, or something like that? What is their comment about this pandemic? Because it is a pandemic. We are getting complaints every day about our small businesses, about this load shedding. It steps big time. Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you. Sbu, come in.
Okay, thank you very much, Chair. Morning, honourable members. Chair, if I may, can I quickly go through perhaps what will be happening from tomorrow until the end of the term? I'll start, Chairperson, by the 12th. The department chair will be here tomorrow presenting their annual reports for the financial year 2020-2021. So it will be an opportunity for members to engage a department tomorrow on a number of issues, Chair. That will include their financial performance, their achievement of the targets, and areas where they underperformed, particularly on the issues of legislation, Chairperson. So tomorrow, the department and two entities, they will be here doing their annual report. Then on the 19th, Chair, will be a consideration and adoption of the 2022 budget BRRR report and the adoption of the petition report that the committee shall have considered in terms of Telkom and OpenServe. That one, Chair, is a simple, straightforward, except that perhaps there are some of the key recommendations, Chairperson, that one is making. The report is almost complete, one of which is the emphasis on the recommendation by the Portfolio Committee during the fifth Parliament, wherein we said the department must urgently consider coming up with the small enterprise ombuds. That has not been achieved, Chairperson. So that is one issue that a portfolio committee will have to drive home when the department appears tomorrow, because the bullying by the big businesses and in fact by the government itself of the small enterprises has not stopped, honorable members. In fact, from where I'm sitting, it's getting worse, looking at my own observation. So I think the portfolio committee will really have to drive this point home, get clear timelines as to when exactly the bill will be tabled to a portfolio committee for processing. Then on the 26th, Chairperson, the briefing by BASA, it's a simple, straightforward issue again. There are concerns, Chair, that there are government programs, incentives that the government is coming up with, where they are trying to rope in the banking sector, but the banking sector keeps rejecting the government initiative. So here, Chair, it's an opportunity for members of the committee to really understand from the BASA's point of view, where are we lacking? What is it that we need to improve, maybe as a government, so that we can get a buy-in? For instance, there is a program by National Treasury that was announced, I think at the beginning of this year. The uptake, honorable members, is still very low. It means maybe as a government, we have not structured a package that is appealing to the banking sector. So it's an opportunity again for the banking sector to tell us where are we getting this wrong. In terms of the briefing by National Treasury, there are a number of issues that we have with the National Treasury where a portfolio committee will have to take through National Treasury, one of which would be the 30-day payment. The National Treasury is responsible for issuing of regulations that speaks to the 30-day payment. Why is the Public Finance Management Act is not implemented in terms of the consequence management? The municipalities, the provincial departments, even the national departments, they are still not adhering to the regulations. So it would be an opportunity for the members again to find out from National Treasury, what is it that we need to do going forward, including the issue of the credit loan guarantee schemes that keeps faltering. I think we need to find a way together with the National Treasury to ensure that we rope in banking sector in this initiative, because the uptake is still very low, even now. Then on the 2nd of November, Chair, Unwabisa may expand on this one. we may have two presentations here, Chair, because the plan maybe is to divide the National Treasury into two sessions, because there are a lot of issues from National Treasury. For instance, the Procurement Bill. The Procurement Bill is one of the very important aspects for small enterprises. The bill has been in the making for the past 4 to 5 years now. Maybe the National Treasury needs to tell us what exactly is delaying the bill, because up until now it has not been finalized, and also the implications of the court judgment in respect of the black business triple BEE. Perhaps the member will need a clarity on that one as well from National Treasury as to what are the implications going forward in terms of that judgment. On the 23rd, Chairperson Braking, maybe there also it's around the issue. There here, Chairperson, we are planning to invite to Public Service Commission. They are also working on the 30-day payment of invoices by small enterprises. We are planning to invite them to come and brief members of the committee. They are very active in the space with regards to this. Perhaps we may also invite to DPME, because DPME, they are also doing something on the non-compliance of government departments in terms of paying within 30 days. But for now, PSC has confirmed that they will be appearing before the committee on the 23rd. Then on the 30th, okay, on the 23rd, Chairperson Braking, we may want to swap this thing. I maybe you forgot, because I requested that the quarterly reports should come to the 23rd. And then on the 30th, we'll have a full-blown session where, for instance, we'll invite to PSC to tell us about the 30-day payment. Chairperson, I'm also here planning to invite, in fact, we have invited to Seda around the issues of informal trading. If members of the committee feel maybe there is another organized organization that we can invite to brief members of the committee with regards to challenges they are having on the ground, they are at liberty to do that. But Seda, I have invited them. They will be coming through to do the presentation. Chair, on the issues of cooperatives as well, we are dividing cooperatives into two. There is work that is currently being done by the Cooperatives Development Agency around the cooperative financial institutions or cooperative banking institutions. There is a working group, Chair, that is currently working with the National Treasury and the World Bank. That working group will be invited to brief members of the committee as to what are the burning issues on the ground that the portfolio committee and the department should pay particular attention to. Also on the side of your normal cooperatives, they are called enterprising cooperatives. We had a session during the 5th Parliament, Chair, where we invited organized apex bodies, one of which was Sanako, there was Nkasa, there was, it's a number of them. And the portfolio committee gave a specific direction as to we need to see one apex body. So here, Chair, they will be invited as well on the 30th to brief members of the committee in terms of what is currently being done. Do we have an apex body that represents cooperatives, or we don't? Well, maybe the department will also tell us what have they done on their part to ensure that cooperatives are organized, because currently they don't have a representative body or an apex body in terms of the Cooperatives Act. So it's a gap, Chairperson. That is why you will find that they are not really active compared to informal trading, for instance. Informal trading is very active. Saita being one of the examples. Then on the 23rd, Chair, that's when then I was saying to Ubra King, here we'll then invite the department to do Quarter 2 performance report. So which means here we may want to swap Ubra King 23rd and the 30th. And also above on the 16th of November, Ubra King, you may want to remove customized enterprise and supplier development solutions, because here, Chairperson, we are inviting the presidency. The presidency will be doing a presentation. It's Dr. Anthony Costa. He will be accompanied by Mr. Nkosi. As you may be aware, he was appointed by the presidency to run with the issues of red tape. So the issues of red tape that Mr. Nkosi is anticipated to tackle are not necessarily restricted to the issues of access to market, So he will tell us what have they done, what is it that they are expecting from the portfolio committee. So the red tape reduction task team in the presidency, it's the one that is actually headed by Mr. Nkosi. So Ubra King, you may want to remove customized enterprise and supplier development solution and just have a topic red tape reduction task team in the presidency. Okay, Chair, with regards to the issues of legislation, members will recall that you took a resolution to run with the review of the Business Act or the Business Amendment Bill. We have had interactions with the department. There was a meeting, for instance, last week where a department took us through all the activities that they have done. Chair, what will happen tomorrow? Perhaps a department might want to briefly tell us what have they done, because from where we are sitting as a portfolio committee, it may not be necessary for us then to go ahead and implement that committee resolution because of the work that has been done by the department already. Including, for instance, the certificate that they have received from UCIAS. So it will be tantamount to a duplication, honorable members. That's number one in terms of the Business Amendment Bill. So I've specifically requested them also to give us a project plan, which we will share with members of the committee. In terms of that project plan, there is an estimation that the bill will be referred to Parliament in April 2023, which is a bit of an improvement compared to what they had stated in their previous annual report, where the estimation was around 2025. So April 2023 is an improvement from what they'd stated. I think as a portfolio committee, again, we just need to make sure that they stick to that project plan. Any deviation from that project plan should be met with the consequence management. Number two, in terms of the review of the National Small Enterprise Act, again, tomorrow, Chairperson, there is an estimation that the draft bill will be presented to Parliament next year. But in this one, there is no proper or exact date as to when the bill will be referred to Parliament. So tomorrow the department is here. I think we need to drive that point home as well, because in terms of what the department has done now, initially the proposition was there will be 3 bills or legislation that will be referred to Parliament. The first one was the review of the Business Act or Business Amendment Bill. The second one was the review of the National Small Enterprise Act. The third one was around the issue of the Small Enterprise Services Ombudsman. Now, the department, what they have done is they have changed. The Small Enterprise Ombudsman Services has now been incorporated into the National Small Enterprise Act. So in terms of the complaints, honorable members, that we are getting, I think, again, it's going to be very important that we are given exact time dates as to when the portfolio committee should expect the tabling of the National Small Enterprise, the review of the National Small Enterprise Act. Chair, I'm not sure if I've covered members in terms of their questions. Let me pause there, then I'll take questions if maybe there are areas that I did not provide clarity on. Thank you.
Thanks. Since this is the program of the fourth quarter, I believe your explanation does make sense. What we will request is for you to improve from time to time, to brief us as a portfolio committee, and members will check whether whatever, most especially after tomorrow's meeting, is then that members can come up with something so that moving forward, we are sure that we are doing oversight, because if they have reviewed and are promising us that by next year, the bills will be taken to Parliament, that's what we want. Yes, we have seen the process is too long, and our humble appeal was that they must reduce those dates, because it doesn't assist us to start something and then until the end of the term, that particular issue has not been resolved. And then when the next Parliament come, or the next term come, only to find out that that institutional memory has been left out. I think that's what happened previous. So we're going to safeguard against that. What we want to make sure that during our time, this is what has been achieved. So I believe we will take it from tomorrow, and then other issues, you will have to deal with them administratively yourself, and you will brief us from time to time. I don't think that your explanation, according to me, it's rich in such a way that will be covered and will be informed by tomorrow's presentations. Thank you very much. Honorable members, let's allow this program for the fourth quarter to be adopted, putting a rider on what you have said. From time to time, we'll monitor this program and express our views, because our role is to do oversight into our department. Agreed?
There's a hand from Honorable Matulelo
Honorable Matulelo.
and Honorable Kruger.
Honorable Matulelo and Honorable Kruger, so that I close this matter, and then we'll move to the next item, which is the presentation by the Auditor General. Honorable Matulelo.
And Honorable April.
Okay. Honorable Matulelo.
Thank you, Chairperson. Greetings to honorable members and all members of this portfolio committee. I just wanted to put my input, Chair, in the program. I humbly request that we must please do our committee meetings physically, because we don't have any reason why we are doing it virtually, because even the number that we have, we can even do it in any of the places that we think we can use. So please, can we do away with this thing of visual, because it's very, very difficult to attend. Because even this network, it was very fine, but now when we are starting a meeting, it is on and off. It's a problem, Shem. It can't be. More especially when we want this department to come and account, tell us what it's doing, because it seems as if they're operating in silos. They are operating in their own. We are a different part of it. We are not part of the department as things stand. As I just invited myself in the program that was recently in Matatiel. You could see that it's something that is very disrespectful, and is, I don't know, but we want to be part of it. As we are part of it, we need to know everything, and this virtually is not good at all as well. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable
Kruger.
he said is Honorable
Kruger.
Yes. Or it's Honorable Kruger.
Kruger and
Okay.
then Honorable April.
Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yes, from where I sit, it seems like there's not good communication between our committee support staff, because, the content advisor, said that he's told King to do this, and King, so it seems like we draw up programs, and the programs is not really in line what the committee want to achieve in the 6th Parliament. So, Madam Chair, I want to propose that somewhere in the week, most probably not on a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, but on a Monday or Friday, let's have a strategic planning session with all the politicians and the committee staff members, so that we can sit around one table, discuss the way forward, so that we can speak out of one tongue and know exactly where we're heading to. Because the end of the 6th Parliament is close. We all know next year is preparing for elections 2024. So time is very few for the 6th Parliament. So I want to propose that we have one-day session, strategic planning, and then we can approve our draft programs for the rest of the 6th Parliament. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Honorable Kruger, before Honorable April comes in, we can't live to adopt this program, because in terms of the rules of the House, we need to do that. If there will be any amendment, come up with some suggestion, and you will deliver them to the administrators so that they infect them. But we can't live without an adopted program. That's what I want to advise the committee. We need to stick to the rules. I understand what you are saying, but here is the program before us with its topic in every session. So if ever want to effect something, you rather talk to the administrators, they will effect that, and then as moving during those 8 weeks, we'll be able to alter. But we can't move without the adopted program. It's illegal. I wanted just to advise them. Honorable April.
Chairperson, thank you very much for the opportunity. Thank you, Chairperson. After hearing Honorable Kruger and Honorable Babala and yourself, I would like to register, Chairperson, the pressure of adopting a program for the sake of adopting doesn't sit well with me. I think there is very critical analysis being made by the previous speakers in terms of this virtual meetings, in terms of the oversight role that we play, in terms of the things that we are supposed to do as a committee. I don't think it is right that we say that it is illegal for us to move. We should be under pressure to adopt a program just for the fact that it has been presented to us. I, for one, am not one who's in support of going to all of these to adopt a program as it is presented to us here with everything being virtual meeting, it can be changed now to say that these meetings are there's going to be a physical meeting here or there, then that's a different story. I'm not happy with this thing, and I don't think it's correct to pressurize us as honorable members to say it is illegal to not adopt it. I don't support it in its fashion that it is presented to us right here, Chairperson. I thank you.
Honorable members, I don't think that there is anyone who is being pressurized here. I'm saying if we have got issues which we want to be effected, we are at liberty to can do that because we're having meetings weekly. We will effect those issues which we feel like what the content advisor was indicating was going through each day on the program, that on this one, this is what we're going to do. On this one, this is what we feel the committee must benefit. If we feel there are issues which want to be effected, we are at liberty to can do that right from now moving forward, because we've got 8 weeks. I think I'm trying to clarify my statement. I don't know whether I'm clear, Honorable Efrain, on that one.
No, thank you, Chairperson. I am clear. If we are saying it's a living document and it can be changed as we are going along,
exactly,
we have a different view or approach towards it. So I thought it was cast in stone as it is. So if it's a living document, then I propose the adoption of the program.
Thank you, Honorable Efrain. Any seconder, Honorable Jacobs, you had proposed, he has now proposed. Can you second?
I second, Chair, with all those amendments. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Can we move to the next item, honorable members? Thank you so much.
Sorry, Chair, there's a hand from Honorable Mtenjane. Don't know whether is it an old hand or.
Honorable Mtenjane, is it an old hand or it's a new hand? Because we have concluded.
Yes, it's an old, but maybe it can be old to new, because I've been raising it before they adopted the program. My worry here also was that it looks like my proposal was never entertained, the issue of our small businesses being affected by the load shedding. Please, Chairperson, I think this one also we need to find a way to squeeze it somewhere so that we address this issue, because it is the issue that we come across in our constituencies as we are going through a pandemic called load shedding. These small businesses, small enterprises, they are not doing anything. They are not doing well at all. They are losing. Those who are doing business because of they must use energy. As we speak now, they are affected, Chairperson. We might not want to entertain it, but it's happening. It's there. So please, Chairperson, can we also entertain this issue, please? Thank you.
I thought King alluded to that, Honorable Mtenjane. I still maintain my statement that whatever want them to effect in the program, let's talk to our administrators who are at liberty to can do that. I heard him saying that the department will be called. Maybe they must go there and be specific on when, because I think the department which should come and account before us is not the Department of Small Business. The department is responsible for NH. So I believe he highlighted it, but I will request that they effect that a proposal lies with that particular department can come before us. I agree with what you are saying, Honorable Mtenjane. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you. King, let's move to the next item, please.
Thank you, Chairperson. I think the next item, it's we can hand over to the auditor. It will be the Auditor General and then the SMG Grant Thornton. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Braking. I'm now inviting the AG to brief us.
Good morning, Chairperson. My name is Aphendule Mantiane. I am the Senior Manager responsible for the audit of the Department of Small Business and Development. In the call, I also have my colleagues from the Office of the Auditor General, Kenny, Mushala, Aleta, Stembiso, and others that will be assisting me when we're taking questions, and also be taking you through the presentation on the investigation which was conducted by the Auditor General in the Department of Small Business. With that, Chairperson, good morning to yourself, Honorable Chairperson, as well as the honorable members of the Portfolio Committee and everyone in the platform. Thank you for the opportunity to take you through. I have my video on. I'm just not sure if it's visible because I can't see it on my side. Otherwise, I can also switch it off just to preserve the bandwidth in case we have network issues.
Yes, we're able to see you, Aphendule.
Okay, thank you. So I can switch it off now. Thank you, Chairperson, for the opportunity to take you through the audit outcomes of the 2021-22 PFMA audit outcomes in the small business portfolio. Our reputation promises that we audit and report in a manner that adds value into the systems of transparency, accountability, and governance. We seek to make it relatively easier to drive accountability and governance in public sector. We understand that we need to remain independent as required by the auditing standards as well as the Public Audit Act. However, we view ourselves as an integral part of the accountability value chain system, and therefore we then, through our audit insights obtained through our audit outcomes, provide insights to influence and drive change as well as culture shift, and enforce where applicable through the mandate allocated to us when the PAA amendments came into effect. In the accountability ecosystem slide, we are expressing that there are multiple role players within the accountability value chain system. And all these role players have unique and important responsibilities that are allocated through their mandates, and some through the legislations that assign and the functions and the responsibilities which they are responsible for. We have the accounting officers and the accounting authorities that are allocated their responsibilities through the PFMA, amongst other legislations, as well as the senior management. And through policies and delegations, then the accounting officer allocates some of the responsibilities allocated to them, to the senior management team, as well as the officials that are responsible for running the day-to-day operations of these institutions. The accounting officers are further complemented by the audit committees, as well as the internal audit units, which are responsible for assurance as well as oversight role in terms of advising the accounting officer on decisions in terms of moving forward and implementing the mandate of the department and the portfolios. Then I have the executive authority that also has responsibilities allocated through legislation as well as political mandates. On the right side, we have support and oversight departments such as the Planning and Monitoring and Evaluation, National Treasury, the Public Service and Administration Department, and all these are coordinating departments that assist government in directing and implementing the mandate of government to achieve the government objectives. One such key stakeholder, Chairperson, is the portfolio committees, and today we appear before you to present the audit outcomes such that we can enable yourselves with information and empower yourselves with information, and also report back in terms of what we've been doing, such that that information can then be used to execute and drive accountability and governance within the portfolio. In the center, we have the Office of the Auditor General, and we've put it there strategically to indicate that as the office, we have access to audit all the role players that have been outlined in this accountability ecosystem. And for that reason, we then obtain insights through our audit observations and the audit outcomes, which we then use to influence the culture shift, the focus, the decision-making, and the thinking, especially to those that are responsible for leading government institutions, for advancing the mandate of government so that the lived experiences of the citizens can be impacted, they can be improved in a manner that is going to change their lives, and performance is driven in a manner that is going to be, that can be linked to the lived experiences of the citizens. We further have the powers to also enforce certain instances where we identify irregularities as the new powers which were allocated to the office through the PAA Amendment Act. These powers became effective from 1 April 2019. However, within the portfolio, we haven't had any auditee where it was scoped in for material irregularities, that being the process which we implemented as a result of this PAA amendment. So, Chairperson, in the main, on this slide, we want to invite the portfolio committee to call upon all the different role players within the ecosystem to account on how they've been executing their mandate. Because what is important for all these role players is to ensure that they implement their mandate effectively and complementary to each other, to enable each other to be able to execute their duties and be able to achieve the objectives of government, that being ultimately to impact the livelihood of the general citizens of South Africa. Moving to the slide on the audit outcomes within the portfolio. Within the portfolio, we have 3 auditees, that being the Department of Small Business Development, the Small Enterprise Development Agency, Seda, as well as the Small Enterprise Development Finance Agency, Sefa. Chairperson, overall within the portfolio, we've noted that there hasn't been a change over the administration term, because if we look at the first year of the administration, we had 2 auditees which received a clean audit outcome and 1 auditee that received an unqualified audit with findings, and that was the Department of Small Business Development. Then in 2020-21, we noted a regression with regards to the audit outcome that was obtained by the Small Enterprise Development Agency. So the Small Enterprise Development Agency regressed in 2021 and obtained an unqualified audit outcome, moving from a clean audit outcome with findings. Then looking at the year 21-22, we again have 2 auditors that achieved a clean audit outcome and 1 institution that remained with an unqualified audit outcome with findings. Chairperson, while the clean audit outcome does not necessarily mean service delivery has been achieved or it's been implemented consistently in a manner that can be linked to lived experience of the citizens, it is a step in the right direction. It is an indication that these institutions are well positioned to be able to now focus on the issues of service delivery, on the issues of ensuring that the small enterprises and the cooperatives which are targeted by the mandate of the portfolio are addressed in a manner that is going to be, in a manner whereby an impact is going to be seen with a visible eye, and it will transform the economy of the country. So the Department of Small Businesses audit outcome in the 21-22 financial year improved when compared to the prior year, with the department receiving a clean audit outcome for the first time since its inception. While the Small Enterprise Development Agency, Seda, has continued to grapple with matters relating to performance information planning and reporting, and this will further be unpacked in the upcoming slides. The portfolio has consistently submitted financial statements on time within the legislated deadlines, and this is commendable, Chairperson, because the institution has respected and adhered to the guidelines that are available to the portfolio. Moving to the next slides, Chairperson, I'm going to try and move quickly on these ones because they're more or less a repetition of what I've already outlined. So within the portfolio, all the institutions submitted credible annual financial statements that were free from material misstatements at the time when they were submitted to us as auditors. And therefore, we did not report any material misstatements on the annual financial statements. Chairperson, this is attributable to the sound control environment, which results from the leadership of these institutions being intentional in terms of the preventative controls that are implemented in the space of financial reporting as well as financial management, and also ensuring that these controls are monitored. And the implementation of audit action plans from the prior year was also adequate to ensure that prior issues do not recur in the year under review. Moving to the next slide, Chairperson, we have financial health considerations, and within the portfolio, we did not identify any negative financial health indicators. However, Seda reported irregular expenditure of about 4.9 million in the current year, which emanates from payments that were made in 2015, whereby the investigation of these payments was concluded in the year 2022. However, Chairperson, this is not an indication of any going concern issues within the portfolio. And also we're noting that there's an expectation that the incorporation of Sefa and Seda into Seda is expected to be concluded within the 2022-23 financial year, per the information that we had available to us. Moving to the next slide. There were no non-compliance issues identified within the portfolio on all three auditees. And this is an improvement in the case of the Department of Small Business Department as well as Seda, whereby the Department of Small Business in the prior year had issues relating to the quality of financial statements, as well as issues relating to transfer management. These have not been identified in the year under review, and we're noting that this is an improvement in the department. Moving to the next slide, we also have considerations for procurement and payment issues, and none were identified within the portfolio. And this is even more commendable, Chairperson, considering that there were also no issues in the prior year. So management has been able to maintain a status quo and the indication that there's no tolerance for non-compliance within these institutions over this cycle. In the next slide, we have irregular expenditure considerations, where we are reporting on the irregular expenditure that was incurred in the year under review within the portfolio. Chairperson, you will note that within the portfolio in the current year, or in the year 21-22, we have 5 million. And like I previously alluded in the previous slide, the 5 million is attributable to irregular expenditure that was reported by Seda in the year 21-22 for the first time, relating to payments that were made in 2015. Chairperson, this is with regards to payments that were made to an incubator without necessarily following the procurement processes. And as such, the conclusion was that these are irregular in nature as a result of that non-compliance. In terms of consequence management, the closing balance currently is around the region of 5 million, which is equivalent to the irregular expenditure that was reported for the first time in the current period. The only amount of irregular expenditure which was previously reported that has not been dealt with amounts to 84,000, and this is not considered to be significant, and it relates to Seda. Therefore, there were no consequence management non-compliances that we identified within the environment. Chairperson, now we are going to move to the presentation on the portfolio performance information. So to keep this simple, within the portfolio, we received credible annual performance reports from the Department of Small Business as well as the State Enterprise Finance Agency before they were audited by the Auditor General. Therefore, there was no reliance on us identifying any issues for these reports to be credible and also be in a position to be used for decision making and by the relevant users. However, in the case of Seda, unfortunately, this was not the case. There were material misstatements that were identified from this institution, and even after the audit process, the institution was not able to correct the material misstatements that were identified, resulting into a modified audit outcome, and therefore the annual performance report that has been published, or in the case of Seda, is not credible, and we cannot confirm it if it is a reliable source of information that can be used for decision making due to the audit outcomes that we expressed in that space. In terms of the performance information of Seda, we noted that on certain instances, some indicators did not have clear evidence of what is the source of information or evidence that is used for reporting performance achievement. And this resulted in instances where there were inconsistent collection of information from the different provinces, resulting into this particular indicators receiving a modified audit outcome. And there was also an instance relating to the decision that was made by the institution relating to splitting township, rural, and informal businesses vis-a-vis the formal businesses. However, when this decision was taken, the institution did not update the business processes to take this update or this development into account. And as such, the provinces had to make judgments in deciding what actually formulates or what actually can be used to determine achievement relating to these particular indicators, which resulted in inconsistent information being collected and collated for reporting the performance information. And we also expressed a modified audit outcome with regards to this issue. And then also on other instances, we noted that the supporting evidence that was provided to us on occasions was not necessarily aligned and in reflection of the performance information that was reported in the annual performance report. While in other instances, we even, Chairperson, also did not obtain the relevant, sufficient, appropriate audit evidence for us to express an audit outcome in some of the indicators. There were also variances expressed on some of the targets that were not achieved, which we could not corroborate. And this is also the reason and the basis under which then the audit of predetermined objectives within Seda was modified. Through our observation by performing a site visits, we then also obtained a reflection that at Seda, small medium enterprises confirmed that they received value in the non-financial support programs that were made available to them through Seda. However, the challenge that we noted, Chairperson, was that when these small medium enterprises then follow up and apply for financial support to Sefa, they then don't receive the necessary funding, which highlights that there's a need between Sefa and Seda to work coherently and complementary to each other, such that these gaps can be closed, because one would understand that when an institution has received support from Seda, then this institution should be in a position to be able to apply for finance as there is a need and be able to obtain that. So there needs to be an understanding as to what are the challenges between Sefa and Seda, and then these two institutions should work together to close those gaps. Chairperson, as part of our contribution to value add, we then took a step further to do things differently and also just share insights relating to performance information and the achievements of the planned targets. We analyzed the performance achievement of the portfolio using the annual reports, and these numbers have not necessarily been audited, but this is just a reflection of the achievements that have been reported in the annual reports of the small business portfolio. In the case of the Department of Small Business Development, there's an indication that 60% of the planned targets were achieved, while Sefa reported 57% achievement of the planned targets. And this, Chairperson, talks to my initial comment relating to the fact that a clean audit outcome does not necessarily mean a service delivery has been achieved. It just simply means these institutions have followed the right processes in terms of the reporting for financial management, performance management, as well as compliance with key legislation. While Seda reflects the highest percentage in terms of the planned targets that were achieved, this should be considered with the knowledge that this particular institution received a modified audit outcome when it comes to the audit of predetermined objectives. Therefore, it may be that this is not a reliable and credible information that is presented in their annual report, as we could not vouch the achievement of the performance information that is reported in their annual performance reports. Moving to this slide, Chairperson, we continue with the value add contribution as the Office of the Auditor General, whereby we took some information relating to MTSF indicators that are allocated to the department as a lead. And then we tracked the progress that has been made by the department in achieving these targets. And also considering that there's 2 remaining years in the MTSF cycle, we just wanted to also gauge as to whether the department or the portfolio will be able to achieve these targets within the administration cycle. We noted that the department is responsible for 6 indicators that are allocated to the portfolio as a lead, and all of these indicators were prioritized in the department's planning documents. And out of these 6 indicators, there are 4 which the department has already achieved or exceeded as at the year end of 21-22, Chairperson. Chairperson, of importance to note with regards to these results that we obtained through our analysis, they were based on the reports that we obtained from the department without so much as auditing those numbers. So this information is based on the information that was made available to us through the department. One indicator that was concerning in terms of the progress that was noted is the indicator relating to products or services to be procured from SMMEs and cooperatives. We noted that Chairperson is at the year end of 21-22, the achievement is currently sitting at 52.6%, which is which is just above 50%. And with that, we consider this to be a bit of a concern because there's now 2 years left within the administration cycle, and therefore the department needs to be intentional in terms of how this particular indicator will then be driven to ensure that at the end of the MTSF cycle, the department or the portfolio achieves this particular indicator. Moving to the next slide, Chairperson. What is of further critical importance within government's mandate and objectives is to ensure that whatever objectives are driven and initiatives that are implemented, there is an impact assessment that is conducted to ensure that the initiatives that are implemented, they actually achieve the intended purpose. And there's also a difference that is being made through the initiatives that are made by the department or that are implemented by the department or the portfolio. Now, in the case of the small business portfolio, we noted that there are about 3 reports which are manufactured and reported in the annual performance report of the department relating to information that can be linked to the impact of the services that are driven by the portfolio. This is a report relating to the annual report on the contribution to jobs, as well as the consolidated report on the 25,000 competitive SMMEs which are targeted each year, as well as an SMME Development Index survey report approved by EXCO. However, this information is not published in a manner that is easily accessible and available to all role players unless one has a direct access to these reports through the department. Now, if this does not happen, this then precludes the relevant oversight role players from having these insights and being able to obtain an understanding as to whether the budget that is executed and used by the department is actually achieving the intended purpose. It is critical to understand that the role of the department on the portfolio is strategical in the manner that the targeted or the SMMEs that would have been supported, they need to then be able to achieve their set objectives and grow so that this can then transpire into having an impact in the economic growth of the country. Now, without this information, there is no knowledge as to whether the department and the portfolio is actually achieving these desired outcomes. So it is encouraged that the portfolio committee in the interim can consider obtaining information or requesting the department to brief the members of the portfolio committee on this information, such that the portfolio committee can have an insight and reflection on how the portfolio is performing, truly speaking, when it's linked to the lived experiences of the citizens. Moving to the next slide, we have material irregularities. Chairperson, I did indicate at the beginning that we have newly obtained powers which became effective from 1 April 2019. The Office of the Auditor General took a decision to implement material irregularities in a phased-in approach. Within the portfolio, there was no auditee which was opt-in from MI processes. However, just high level, what a material irregularity means, a non-compliance with legislation or contravention of legislation, fraud, theft, and the breach of fiduciary duty identified during an audit process. And that resulted or is likely to result in a material financial loss, misuse or loss of a material public resource, or a substantial harm to a public sector institution. Chairperson, within the portfolio, we have not identified any MIs. And Chairperson, as another initiative taken by the office, while there are no auditors that are scoped in for MI processes within the portfolio for the 21-22 cycle, we did not identify any indicators which suggested that there might be an MI process, because in our engagement letter, it is clear that at any point when we identify an indicator that there might be an MI process, an auditee can then be immediately scoped in for MI processes, and this will be communicated to the relevant stakeholders through an addendum to the engagement terms. And then we are almost at the end of my presentation. We have the last slide on root causes, recommendations, and commitments to the on the small business portfolio audit outcomes. So with regards to the issues that we identified at Seda pertaining to performance information, we noted that there was no good planning and in-year performance management. And this is linked to the fact that there were no processes in place. And there were also instances where the source document or evidence was not clearly defined. And there were also instances of key vacancies that we noted within the Small Enterprise Finance Agency, as well as the Small Enterprise Development Agency. And this is attributable to the issue relating to the pending incorporation of Sefa into Seda, which has resulted in some of these vacancies not being filled. So our recommendation is that the accounting officer and the accounting authorities of this institution should ensure that there's adequate monitoring performance systems in place, which will ensure that performance information can then be supported by reliable and credible supporting evidence. Chairperson, there also needs to be an intentional plan by Seda to ensure that proper record keeping is maintained to support and adequately inform the performance achievements that are reported in the performance report of the institution. And lastly, the developed action plans should be designed in a manner which is adequate to address the key root causes and the issues that are identified within the performance information that have already been reported to the institution, such that they can then be implemented and timeously to allow for these issues to be resolved and achieve the desired outcome, which would be no audit findings reported on the performance information. And lastly, we recommend that the vacancies within the portfolio must be filled within a reasonable time to allow for these role players to be able to assist the institutions to drive and implement the mandate of the institution. And lastly, Chairperson, we have the commitments that we received from the executive authority when we appraised her of the audit outcomes within the portfolio. She did take the message with regards to how we are approaching performance reporting and the insights that we share positively, and committed that she is going to invite us as the Office of the Auditor General to review some performance planning documents within the portfolio so that we can assist by providing more insight with regards to those. And also she called upon the leadership of the institutions to take responsibilities and account of how these then planned achievements and targets are actually executed and achieved. She also did indicate that she also does not want the portfolio to become non-compliant when this is done, even though she highlighted and encouraged the prioritization of performance within the portfolio to achieve the objective of government. Chairperson, with that, I've come to the end of my presentation, and with your permission, I'd like to invite my colleague Aleta to take you through the observations and the feedback on the investigation which was conducted on the Department of Small Business. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you. She may take over.
Thank you, Pendule. Thank you, Chairperson. Good morning, Chairperson, honorable members, and the colleagues. I will be the one who will be taking you through the outcome of our investigation. With your permission, can I request that I switch off my camera and proceed with my feedback? Thank you. Chairperson, thank you for the opportunity to brief the committee at high level on the outcome of our investigation at the department and the subsequent events post the issuing of the final management report. As part of the briefing, I will provide some background in respect of the mandate insofar as the investigation is concerned, summary of findings, reporting and subsequent events, and our recommendation on the way forward in relation to the public report. Next slide, please. So in terms of the background, the late AG approved the investigation at the department in 2018, and the letter of engagement to that effect was signed on the 23rd of March 2018 with the former DG. The period covering our investigation was 2015-16 and 2016-17 financial years. Our scope included the determination on the compliance by the department with the guidelines and the standard operating procedures for the Black Business Supplier Development Program, the BBSDP, and the Cooperative Incentive Scheme, the CIS. The validity of the processes followed in the awarding of incentives to grant applicants, confirmation of the authenticity of suppliers and quotations received, verification on whether goods and services were indeed rendered or delivered, and the monitoring and reporting processes followed by the department subsequent to the approval and payment of these incentives to the beneficiaries. Can you please move to the next slide? In terms of the findings relating to the BBSD program, the findings are predominantly due to non-adherence to the guidelines and the SOPs in processing, evaluating, adjudicating, and recommending grant applicants for approval of the incentive schemes. The findings also point out the inadequate internal controls, monitoring, and oversight in the awarding of incentives to grant applicants. This also applies to the CIS. The non-compliance identified related to, for instance, application files contained no evidence that site inspections had been performed to confirm the existence of the applicant's business premises before the submission of the applications to the adjudication committee for approval. And this was contrary to the provisions of the guidelines.
Applications were also accepted and approved despite the amounts applied for exceeding the 30% of the applicant's previous year's turnover as per the financial statements provided, or there was no evidence to substantiate the 30% previous year turnover requirement, meaning officials would accept the financial statements which did not reflect the prior figures, and as such were unable to determine if the applicants indeed complied with the 30% requirement. And in addition, there was no evidence to demonstrate that the officials checked compliance with this requirement. And that was also in contravention with the guidelines and SOPs. Next slide, please. We also found that applications did not contain the required documentation relating to the required documents, for instance, the ID copies of key managers, directors, shareholders, and list of employees of the entity, which was also contrary to the provisions of the guidelines. And despite this, officials submitted these applications for adjudication by the committee, which were subsequently approved in the absence of these documents. Applications did not have the financial capacity to fund 50% of the total cost of the equipment applied for, as their liabilities at the time greatly exceeded their assets. In addition, the diagnostic reports prepared by network facilitators in most instances did not indicate how the applicant's 50% contribution will be funded. We also noted that claims were paid without the required documentation. Then on the validity of awarding the BBSDP incentives, we found instances where grant applicants whose turnover is above 1 million were not registered for VAT. We noted multiple instances where preferred service providers that quoted above 1 million did not provide for VAT in their quotations. They also failed to provide their VAT registration numbers on their quotations. However, these quotations were accepted by the business development officers, the BDOs. One supplier was registered for VAT according to our searches on the SARS website, but they did not charge VAT on their invoice. We also noted or identified that directors of multiple companies applied for the grant and received the grant exceeding the 1 million threshold. Moving on to the next slide, with regards to the verification of goods and services delivered by the BBSDP grant applicants, we were unable to locate or verify the existence of certain premises, and I think I've alluded to that in my previous prior slides, certain premises and or assets for which the grant funding was provided for. One instance was noted where grant applied for and an applicant was paid an incentive for equipment amounting to 800,000. The inspection report contained photos of the digital packing machine reflecting the serial number of the equipment. However, during our inspection, an old analog machine was found on site with a serial number which corresponded to the pictures on file, but the equipment was different. In 3 instances, we found grant applicants received intensives for way bridges amounting to 2.4 million. The inspection reports indicated that the equipment had been delivered to the applicants. Upon visiting the premises, we found that the way bridges belonged to other third parties and not the applicants. And moving on to the next slide. Then on the findings relating to
CIS. We noted non-compliance relating to site visits not performed by the Trade and Industry Advisor, TIA, prior to submitting the applications to the Committee for Adjudication. Applications investigated were processed and approved without the required documentation. TIAs did not confirm that 3 quotations were submitted for each activity applied for. Instances where lowest quotations was not accepted and no reasons were documented in this regard. Applications were approved by the adjudication committee with less than 3 quotations. However, the motivation for such deviations were not approved by the accounting officers. Then on the monitoring and reporting processes followed by the department. Next slide, please. It was confirmed by the director and the deputy director of the BBSDP program that no post-approval site visits were conducted for the applications approved and paid. The CIS deputy director also confirmed that the department did not conduct post-investment site visit on funded cooperatives. I think in the nutshell, that there was about the findings based on the investigation that we conducted. Then on the reporting and subsequent event, we issued our draft management report to the accounting officer on the 22nd of February 2019 and discussed it with the accounting officer and the executive authority on the 28th of Feb 2019. We also discussed on the 28th of Feb, discussed the investigation and our findings with former Minister Zulu. Management provided the responses to our findings and recommendations on the 19th and 25th March 2019, respectively. The final MR incorporating management responses was then issued to the accounting officer on the 25th of April 2019. And this report contained recommendations relating to the disciplinary action, criminal action, and also civil action. Moving on, we were then approached by the department to support the disciplinary hearing processes, and the AGSA agreed to provide support and assistance with the evidence, documentation, and our testimony at these hearings on the 29th of April 2019. We subsequently provided the department with the relevant information, evidence, as well as input on the DC charges. This process continued until December 2019. Disciplinary process were scheduled to take place beginning 2020, but it was halted due to COVID-19 pandemic. However, the hearings were subsequently finalized in November 2020. We also assisted the department with the testimony at Public Sector Bargaining Council hearings. And that process ran from July 2022 to September 2022. Then, as part of our recommendations in relation to the public report, we propose or recommend that we do not issue the public report given the lapse in time following the issue of the issuing of the final management report. And I would like to then pause the chairperson and honorable members and allow for Aletta to maybe come in if there's any input. Alternatively, I will then open the floor for comments or questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sembili, and good morning, honorable members. That is basically a brief snapshot of our investigation and key findings relating to the process. you'll see that the investigation in this instance, I must commend the department in that sense that we performed the investigation, but we were also able to actually assist the department with the process in terms of consequence management. I think we frequently find that we do these investigations, we issue the management report, and almost immediately, typically the public report, and then very little is done in terms of consequence management. And in this state, in this instance, you'll see the complete opposite was followed. Because the department initiated the disciplinary processes, the stance from the AG on these matters is that we typically will follow a consequence management process or support the consequence management process, firstly, as the key objective in terms of, why investigations are being performed in the first place. So you'll see from this matter, the disciplinary hearings obviously took quite a bit of time, and unfortunately, a lot of the delays came due to the COVID period during 2020-21, which obviously impacted some of the matters being able to proceed. But the department did push through, the disciplinary hearings did take place, and the matters on some of them was then escalated to CCMA. And again, we have assisted the department specifically in addressing the CCMA matters or testifying during those. So I think, if we look at it from a AGSA perspective, the critical thing from my side is really recommending the department for the consequent management that they followed in terms of the outcome of our investigation. And I think that is also why we did make the recommendation to the department to say, if we look at, typically we would issue a public report with the objective that the portfolio committees, oversight is aware of the investigation, and especially that there is then also some oversight in terms of whether the department is actually taking the necessary consequence management and bringing it to the public's, or awareness in terms of what has happened or transpired, so that follow-up with the department can take place. In this instance, we can actually see that process have fully run its course. And that's why our suggestion to say perhaps a public report in this instance might not be the best value for money in terms of issuing such. But as I say, it is a recommendation from our side to the department as well, and we are happy to take any further comments. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for the two presentations. Can we go back to the agenda, King? I can't still remember what should happen, whether it's discussion or we allow the other team to present for Sefa. Can we take the next? Yes.
It was the briefing by SNT Grant Thornton, but I don't know whether we can maintain it or what.
I can't hear you, King.
Now, I was saying, according to the program, we've said it will continue with the SNT Grant Thornton report. So I don't know whether now we can change it, amend it, take the deliberation, and then go to the next one.
No, let them present so that we do both.
Okay.
Yes. Over to you.
Thank you, Chairperson. My name is Kelelo Hlajwani. I am the Audit Director who was in charge of the audit of Sefa. I'm not sure if I can have permission to share, or if Mr. King, you'll be able to share my presentation.
No, you can have the permission to share if it is possible.
Yes, I've given you.
Okay, thank you. If you can let me know whether you can see my presentation.
Yes, it is clear. Proceed.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for the opportunity of allowing us to present the audit outcomes from the Sefa perspective. In the previous presentation by the AG, they have addressed certain elements of the Sefa audit outcomes, and also in terms of the results of their annual performance report. Our presentation somewhere does overlap on certain matters that they have spoken on, given that, we do also then report to the AG our findings. So they have captured some of that. But from our side, our main focus will be on the financial audit and also on the findings on the audit of performance objective. In our first slide, what we've just represented is just the basis on which we worked out, or at least assessed the financial misstatements that we identified during the audit. We work on the concept of materiality, and just to highlight to the members that our materiality was 83 million. So that would mean anything that we would have identified that was above 83 million would have affected our audit opinion, and we would have also then reported on it. But I'm happy to announce that we did not identify any material findings. In the second table, you will see the audit differences that we identified that management did not correct was to the tune of 12.8 million, which we are able to accept. And they also then did correct one of the misstatements which related to 5 million. So overall, the audit outcome was an unqualified audit opinion, which was consistent with what the AG presented. Some of the findings that we found to be significant from the audit related to IT general controls, whereby you had your developer having full admin rights, which is normally not recommended, because one could grant access to himself or to whoever they feel they need to without actually adequate monitoring or review. So, that we brought to the attention of management, and that is currently being corrected as well. Some of the findings we also identified on the subsidiaries related to input VAT. From a Kula business premises perspective, there were invoices where VAT was claimed, but they were not in the name of KBP. And again, this is a legacy issue, because if you can remember, property management from a KBP perspective was managed by a third service provider until 2018. So you still find that certain invoices are still in the name of either the service provider at that time, and some were actually issued to the city of Joburg, city of Tshwane. So in that instance, it would have not been prudent for Sefa to claim VAT on those. But again, that's it's a minor issue which can be corrected. There was also an issue then noted from a KCG perspective as well with regard to the application of the input ratio, seeing that they also had some interest income. Again, the potential exposure on that side can only be limited to possible penalties and interest that SARS could charge them, but with no material impact or financial impact. In terms of the bank accounts and investment property, again, this relates to legacy issues from a Kula business premises perspective. There is still a large portfolio of properties that are in the name of Sefa or in the name of Sefa-related entities. And again, you know, we have liaised with the lawyers that are in charge of the transfers. This has taken a while to process, but from an audit point of view, we have looked at it from a point of substance over form, and it is comforting the fact that, you know, most are in the name of Sefa or Sefa-related entities, which means that at least within the group has control of these entities. It's just a matter of assigning legal ownership to those entities, especially because with Kula business premises, you do have a standalone legal entity. So, I mean, we have reflected the quantum of those to the tune of it's about 155 million investment property book that is affected. I mean, where we found property still in the name of third parties outside of the Sefa group, management did write down the values to zero. So from a bank account perspective, they are busy fixing that as well with FNB. We also found an issue with regards to the KCG guarantee with regard to the SMMEs and cooperatives, whereby there was a guarantee that was issued for about 14.4 million, but we couldn't get supporting documentation for that. So in this instance, it appears this was more a failure in internal control, whereby APSA had approved the lending or disbursement to the applicable entity and later revoked it, but somehow that message did not filter within Sefa, and Sefa had carried this in their books. So again, you know, this is more of an internal control and internal control deficiency, which management is currently correcting. This had the impact on the annual performance report, but when we did bring it to the attention of management, the annual performance report was corrected. But I guess what is important to note is that this was not considered to be material. Again, given that, you know, our materiality is above 80 million, and therefore, you know, this did not have an impact on the audit opinion. We also noted findings from a grant perspective, whereby there was an automotive aftermarket program that was initiated in the current year. And we just noted that the program was running in the current year, but I mean, the agreement itself was only signed post-year end, which can create quite a couple of issues. I mean, in terms of the validity of whatever was concluded during the or at least under the program itself. So again, management have committed to correcting that and also implementing controls to ensure that that does not appear in the future. As per also the prior years, the expected credit loss, which is your provisioning for your bad debt on loans, simply put, again, our actuaries did perform a review. There were no material differences that were noted, and just some high housekeeping issues that were noted as recommendations in terms of calibration parameters. And also, I think maybe something important to note was the methodology itself, that, you know, it was not documented for certain models. So should somebody leave, you know, it sort of leaves a gap in terms of consistency of application or standardization of application on that. But this is a repeat finding on the ECL model. Another issue that we noted is that during the audit of KCG, which is the Kula Credit Guarantee, you know, the actuary's contract expired. I mean, this had an impact whereby at one point the actuaries were actually not forthcoming with any information to ourselves. But also it posed the risk to Sefa in that, you know, regulatory reporting also had to be concluded. And, you know, if one hadn't finalized a such a key contract already at that stage, because I mean, regulation allows you, or at least provides that you must start looking at expiring contracts 6 months before they expire. So that was a bit of an internal control failure. But what happened is that Sefa initiated an RFQ process, and Matlotlo were reappointed at that stage. So all regulatory processes with regard to the Prudential Authority were completed, as well as then our audit of their models and provisionings. And again, they did indicate that this was more of a short-term measure that was applied, and that, you know, they would roll out a full tender process. We also, I guess, noted some housekeeping issues. And when I say housekeeping, these are really minor issues, but that were, you know, that we normally communicate to management as part of the improvement of their control environment. We did highlight last year that, you know, there were records missing from Sefa. Sefa is their loan system. So, you know, again, we were provided with the documentation for audit ultimately, but it did take a while. So, you know, if they have a system, then, you know, the recommendation is please use the system effectively, and ensure, and also to ensure that the documentation is complete on the system. We also noted, albeit it was a small issue, that there was an incorrect payment allocation. So a payment that did not belong to a certain customer, you know, was allocated to an incorrect person. I mean, the quantum was 5,000 Rand, but remember, we also audit on a sample basis. It could have been higher. It could be an indicator of, you know, maybe I wanted to say it could be an indicator of fraud. We did investigate. It was a control failure. It was definitely not fraud, but it opens for situations like that if not attended to. So, you know, we had to raise it with management, and they have committed to also putting in place IT controls that will ensure that such misallocations do not happen in the future. Again, we did note certain errors with regards to the investment property valuations, which were corrected. And again, these were very minor differences, but again, controls are important. IT, I did touch on IT. We still have other, outside of the developer that had universal rights, we still had other issues with regard to IT policies, outdated service level agreements, and you know, we found it wanting that the environmental monitoring system wasn't adequate. And then again, on fixed term contract agreements, you know, we found that the way the contracts are written, because we had initially identified a contract which we thought was a consultant agreement, which would have meant that supply chain management processes would have had to have applied. And as we then investigated, you know, we actually found that the true substance of the contract, also after evaluating certain audit evidence, that it was a fixed term contract. So we implored on management to actually improve the documentation of their contracts, because I mean, that investigation took quite a while. And, you know, that would have not been the case had that documentation been clear. So, and again, I think management has already corrected that subsequent to our audit. In terms of the audit of the annual performance report, which the results the AG has already touched on, I mean, we are just confirming the same, that it was an unqualified opinion as well on that. And we've got a green arrow showing improvement, because last year we had a material adjustment to the report. So in the current year, the findings that we found were not material, and the corrections were not material. So that is an improvement on that part. Just to touch on some of the findings, albeit not, that didn't result in material misstatements, but still an indicator of control deficiencies. You know, we found that the documentation, especially in the intermediary space, it's actually more in the intermediary space, that, you know, the type of supporting documentation that they maintain, you know, could be improved. For example, when we wanted to verify employees that were employed, we were only provided with an email to say, oh, these are the employees that we have, rather than something more credible and concrete, such as your employee pay slips or employee payroll reports. Again, there was certain information we also struggled to find, and we felt that, Sefa, again, from an intermediary perspective, as part of their oversight role, they can ensure that they maintain the supporting evidence also on Sefa-less, as it is a loan management system as well. So those were some of the recommendations. And we also found that when we were auditing facilities dispersed to people with disabilities, 4 entities that we requested to audit, which were reported as such, were actually not facilities that were dispersed to people with disabilities. So that was an error in reporting. And again, in this instance, the annual performance report was corrected to reflect the correct amount. And then in terms of the audit with the other compliance with PFA matters, we did not note any issues. So from that point, the Sefa is compliant. The AG did touch on the vacancies that exist as a result of the pending merger. We also saw the same from our side. And then from a financial viability perspective, Sefa in the current year actually realized a profit to the tune of 42 million rand compared to the past losses in the previous years. And again, if you look at the nature of the business of Sefa, and even though they do still carry a negative retained earnings position, given the support that it gets from the IDC and from the MTF perspective, we still then consider Sefa to be a going concern. In terms of the previous irregular expenditure that was identified from a Kula business premises perspective to the tune of 7.5 million, in the current year, it was condoned by the accounting authority and also disclosed as such in the financial statements. There was a small irregular expenditure of about 12,000, which was very immaterial, but however, still then disclosed in the financial statement. Chairperson, I have come to the end of my presentation. I think if I can just conclude from a recommendation perspective, or maybe let me start with the thanks and the positive highlights. I can commend the management of Sefa, also in terms of they've come forward and embraced the findings that we issued. And most of the findings, as I was going through them, I did indicate that they are corrected. And some, they have implemented measures or are in the process of implementing measures, to address them. I must also strongly commend the board of Sefa. We've had, for the first time, I must say, we've had multiple meetings with the board, very lengthy ones as well, where they were very interested in identifying and understanding what are the root causes of the findings so that they can, aid and direct management, in terms of correction. And most, also importantly, that, they were not forgiving on findings that, were said to be waiting on the merger. They were very insistent in ensuring that there is correction prior to the merger where possible, such that certain, deficiencies are not carried forward. So I'd like to commend them from that instance. I think, there is still room, especially from an intermediary monitoring perspective, for greater oversight and ensuring that, the intermediaries are delivering on Sefa's mandate, appropriately. I mean, the keeping of accurate information is the only way, I guess, in terms of seeing that, the disbursements are allocated in terms of the objective. So I think, that if I was to highlight one of the areas that needs a bit more attention, it is from that area. But Chairperson, if the committee can continue to support the board of Sefa in its mandate, I think they've got this one on track. Okay, thank you, Chairperson. I'm done with my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. We mute honorable members? Honorable members, here are the three presentations. I will invite hands to engage with the presentations. King, you will assist me to identify hands from the floor. Thank you. Honorable members, I'm inviting hands. Braking?
Yes, Chairperson.
Can you assist me?
Yes.
Yes.
There's a hand from Honorable Matulelwa.
Yes.
There's a hand from Honorable Jacobs.
Yes.
Those hand from Honorable Tenjane.
Yes.
Those are the three so far, Chair.
Thank you.
Chairperson, is it only me that can't hear anything, or is the meeting quiet?
Hello? Come again, who was speaking? I could not.
Sorry, it's Honorable April speaking, Chair. My question was just, am I the only one that can hear nothing now, or has the meeting gone quiet?
Chairperson, we can't hear nothing.
No, I think we're still waiting for Honorable Matulele, because the hands that came up was from Honorable Matulele, Honorable Jacobs, and Honorable Mtenjan. So I think the chair was.
So if Honorable Matulela is not in, can Honorable Tenjana speak, please? Honorable Jacobs, the third one is Honorable Tenjan. In that order.
No, Honorable Matulele is in.
Okay. The stage is yours, Honorable Matulelo.
Thank you so much, Chairperson. Thank you very much for the presentation from the audit. I would like first to remind the auditor's office that there is a Vesandi, a small business from Mount Freya, that appeared in the database of supported SMMEs. there was an amount involved or the figure of money that was involved. The owner confirmed that those are green lights. We were here as members of this portfolio committee. But this audit didn't bother investigating this daylight fraud. Can you please enlighten us on this regard? 2, I think we must have a very simple way to prevent these fraud activities of grants and all kinds of support from taxpayers' money. Chairperson, as this committee, because the recent corruption done by the Department of Small Business can only be caught after a year or 2. Where the minister is running around the country handing over working materials to cadres in the name of informal traders, openly, without consequences. I'm happy that the audit is witnessing that. Hence, we wanted our program to include a program of the department, so that especially this sensitive part of handing over non-existing companies, be that we have a price, because I believe audit must be part of the handover process, because every executive does corruption anytime and run away with it and no consequences whatsoever. Like Ramadola, who established Matras Bank in his Palapala farm. Inene kwelilizwe ukwamnwebese, serious. Thank you, Chair. That was my input and my recommendation on the audit. Ukuthi ibe part. And the audit must not wait up until the thugs have run away with the corrupt activities. Thank you so much, Chair.
Thank you. The next speaker is Honorable Jacobs. On the 3 reports, please.
Can you unmute Honorable Jacobs?
Oh, thank you. Sorry, Chair. Chair, let's start by acknowledging the department's improvement and the clean audit. Now, you know, we must also acknowledge where the department is making improvement. This thing of Africans hating each other and just focusing on our bad stuff must stop. Yes, there's corruption. Yes, there's malfeasance, but we can clearly see this department is improving. So I don't subscribe to this narrative that all of us in the ANC and all of us that is Black and African is corrupt. There's systems in place, and so the order that we got, we must commend the department for this clean audit. I have just, as part of my oversight, is just also 3 or 4 questions, but I think the narrative must change. The department is on the up. It has a good, accountable officers, and we need to commend them as this team. So, Chair, the 3 things I want to pick up is the weighbridge. I think there was a story about 2.5 million rand that was given to a beneficiary, and then the weighbridge was no longer the beneficiaries, but a third party. So, Chair, this is a common practice, and I want the AG to talk to the specific incident, but also what can we do to ensure that when the department provides a benefit or an opportunity for a beneficiary, that beneficiary doesn't sell that or uses the equipment to resell it, because we see it in housing. We give RDP houses out and then people sell it. So in RDP houses, you're not allowed to sell the houses within the first 5 or 10 years. What is the AG recommending about how do we ensure that government benefit to beneficiaries, both the equipment, actually get to the relevant people? Then there was the whole DC of management or people involved in fraudulent or corrupt activities. We, as in the last audit report, we said that we want to have regular updates of this portfolio committee. Chair, the AG is recommending that we don't see the public report because of lapse of time. Now, Chair, I'm not sure if this sounds like covering up, but we want to know. We want to know what were the consequences. If how much was told, if there's a DC, what was the ruling, what was the finding, so that we can be satisfied that there's consequence management. And we also, Chair, we need to start naming and shaming those that are stealing, those counter-revolutionaries that are stealing from us. We need to start naming and shaming them. So let's get that report, Chair. I don't agree that AG must say no because it's COVID and the lapse time that we can't see those things. And if we need consequences, that's the case. So, Chair, the audit findings, we say we got a clean report, but there was 5 issues. So how can the department get the clean audit, but there was 5 findings made against them? Let me just highlight the 5 findings, Chair. So in corporate management, the one finding was that duplicate amounts and names of key management personnel was not disclosed. Okay, so that's a serious one. The second finding was that management did not properly review supporting documents before capturing the information to register to ensure that accurate and valid information as a result of claims were paid in May 2020. These payments were not picked up by the BBSDB process during reconciliation between approved grants to beneficiaries and actual payments made. So I think that's also an adverse finding. The third finding was achievement as per the annual performance was not supported by schedule provided. And in the strategy, there was no reasons provided for deviation and not supported by supporting evidence. And then the last finding was that the number of crafters supported through craft customer sector program was incomplete. We didn't get the supporting schedules of these crafters, Chair. So yes, there was 5 of these findings, but yet they got a clean audit. Can the AG please explain? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Honorable Mtenjana.
Well, thank you very much once again, Chairperson. Again, greetings to the colleagues and the Auditor General. Yes, Chairperson, as a result of this network, of course, I did not capture so much because I was in and out. I did not capture so much about the department, but so far, as it may be, Chairperson, let me direct my questions to the Sefa, because that's the one that I caught up at least with it before the network could kick me out again. I'm a little bit disturbed, Chairperson, yeah, as I hear that there was the audit found out that there was a certain amount of cash which was given to a wrong person or a wrong business person. Instead, I think it was in an amount of 5,000. Well, that is wrong, Chairperson. And this is exactly part of what we've been saying as a committee, that we need accountability. We need the department, may it be Sefa, Seda, or whoever, they must bring here a database that can then tell us, Uti, this is what they've done. These are the small business that they've invest according to the application for funding, so that then there can be accountability. Remember, after that, we then could call back or request those small businesses to come forward to us, to the committee, to account if indeed they did receive such monies. Because unless we do so, Chairperson, there will be always this problem. Because what I can tell you, as for Sefa especially, Sefa, they are very much negligent, this entity. We get complaints each and every day about Sefa, that it's either they did not even bother to check the application of the small businesses when they are requesting for funding. Many cases like that. One such case, I referred it to you, Chairperson. But there are many cases where they tell you, small businesses will tell you that, no, Tina, we don't know anything. Even when we try to apply, they don't even care. They don't even tell us. They don't even reply to us whether we qualify or not. I mean, I'm not saying everyone who applied this Sefa must pay money. No, I know they use their own criteria to check if the person qualifies or not. But please answer that particular person. Because number one, the person does not have money. She or he want to start a small business. You are frustrating the very same person by saying to the person over the radio or somewhere that, yeah, come and apply, I'll give you money. That person applies, you don't even bother to answer. That is more frustration than those people that they have already. So Sefa, I can tell you, Chairperson, we need to zoom in on Sefa. Sefa is not good at all as far as we get the recommendation from the constituency that we are in. Because what we're saying here is not from us, it's not personal, it's what we get from the people on the ground, because they tell us to say, but this is what is happening, and this is a reality. So please, Chairperson, my request, humbly request as a committee member also, I'll just request that please, the issue of a database, please, can they furnish us with that so that we can then check there who's responsible where and what. Then we can call those people to come here and say, yeah, Mina, they did give me money, so much money I received. Yes, it's correct. Otherwise, yeah, we are told the stories which is not correct. And please, also this thing of not attending to the applications of those of our poor people. Please, Chairperson, can they please start to do their work properly? Thank you very much, Chairperson.
Thank you. Braking, do we still have any other hands?
Yes, Chair. We've got a hand from Honorable de Villiers and
Okay.
Honorable Hendricks.
Okay. Honorable de Villiers, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Chairperson, and hello, colleagues. I'll keep it short. Chair, I find it unacceptable, really, that the committee during the 5th Parliament asked for an investigation and specifically said that that it would be the responsibility of this committee during the 6th Parliament to view and analyze that report, and that the AGSA now says that too much time has elapsed and the report cannot be, publicized. It is, in my view, completely unacceptable, and it just raises questions. I mean, the only reason you wouldn't want to why we can't have access and why that report cannot be publicized is because, well, then something in it must be trying to be hidden away. All the work has not been done. But whatever the reason is, it is not acceptable. The report was asked for by the 5th Parliament. It was specifically said that the committee during the 6th Parliament must look at it. And I don't think we as a committee can accept the AGSA telling us, well, too much time has elapsed. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Honorable Hendricks.
Thank you very much, Honorable Chair. And thank you very much for this opportunity, Honorable Chair. Honorable Chair, as you know, that constituency officers of different political parties have increased the footprint of Seda in trying to mobilize people to benefit from government grants. And Al-Jamaa has also done the same. And so we have a better understanding of how things work. And we go back to the applicants who come from different political parties, not necessarily our own constituency, to ask them, what is happening. And of all the people that got grants from Sefa, every one of them told us that they have to pay a clipping fee, that the Sefa officials slip in another application form, get them to sign blank forms. I reported this to the director here of Seda in Cape Town. And I told him, and he said, look, once we send the application to Sefa, it is out of our hands. So Sefa has to play a more monitoring role and watch it, because they do all the hard work, mobilize the people, qualify them, get them to fill in the forms, they get to Sefa, and then they take clipping fees and they slip in extra applications. And our poor people that the project constituency officers, without knowing, are paying for the clipping fee, are paying for the extra application that we slipped in. Sefa, I can't wait, Honorable Chair, for Sefa to be wiped off the face of the earth. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Honorable Hendricks. Braking, I think these were the last two hands.
There's now a hand from Honorable April.
Honorable April, over to you.
Chairperson, I just want to take the opportunity to thank to say thanks for the presentation. It is really enlightening, encouraging to see that the AG's office is doing such a phenomenal job into taking us into confidence with regards to the true state of our entities, as it were. I am just a bit concerned about, I think I'm covered about a lot of the issues that has been raised by Honorable Faiz and others. I understand the frustration that the last speaker was making, but I think it is but harsh to say that an institution that is helping our young, our black, our underprivileged and not entitled people of South Africa should be wiped off the face of the earth. I think that's a little bit of a harsh comment to make, and I would want to ask if you would draw that thing of wiped from the face of the earth, because it could have set a bad tone going forward. But I want to thank the presenters for the presentation, and one would take it really into consideration when we deal directly with the department going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable April. King, do you still have any other hands?
No, Chairperson.
No hand. I will request AG to respond. What I will advise, let them respond on their presentation. Issues which relates to the department will be dealt with tomorrow, because ours now is to respond on the audit report by the two entities and express our views, and then I will summarize after they have spoken. Thank you. AG.
Thank you, Chairperson. It's Aphendule. I'm going to attempt to answer some of the questions, and then I'll also invite my colleagues to assist me with some of the questions that are linked to their presentations. Honorable Matilelo and Honorable Jacobs made mention of an instance where a beneficiary was included in the list of SMEs that received financial support, and when a follow-up was done during the portfolio committee's visits, this beneficiary indicated that this information was not correct. I am unclear, Chairperson, as to whether this is something that took place in the department or at Sefa, and this would also assist us in trying to respond to the question. However, in the case that this is a matter concerning the Department of Small Business, during our risk assessment and understanding of the environment, Chairperson, this information did not come to our attention, and with your permission, if it relates to the department, would I like to ask for permission to go back and gather more information to understand what transpired and the reason perhaps why this was not identified by the audit process. And in terms of the audit findings that Honorable Jacobs was referring to say, how come the department achieved a clean audit outcome while there are certain findings that were communicated, that also I wasn't clear whether the findings relate to the department or they relate to Sefa, because that's where the detailed audit findings were presented. However, in the case of the Department of Small Business, the issues that we were identified when we evaluated them against the materiality thresholds that were set for the department, they were found to be insignificant and as such did not constitute material issues for us to report negatively against the department. And moving to the commentary that was made by Honorable Villiers. Oh, sorry, Chairperson, there was also a comment by Honorable Mtenjane which related to Sefa. I will leave that one for Kelelo to respond to. And also the issue relating to the investigation, I'll also leave for Aleta to respond to. Honorable Hendricks also spoke of our observation, which we confirmed during the presentation, that there seems to be a challenge between the Seda and Sefa in terms of the support which they provide the SMMEs. While Seda undertakes these SMMEs through their programs and provide them with non-financial support, when they apply to Sefa, there are instances where we observe that they then did not get the necessary financial support, and as such, we were recommending that the two institutions need to work together to understand the challenges and also be able to bridge those gaps, such that all the SMMEs that would have been taken through the SMME program, non-financial support program by Seda, qualify for these financial support, can then apply without hindrances and rejections in the future, as these would be issues and challenges that will be closed between the two institutions. Chairperson, I'm going to hand over to Gelelo and Aleta with your permission. Thank you. Apologies, Honorable Chairperson. I just want to also sort of correct myself. I did receive feedback that I might have said the annual performance report of Seda is not credible. The intention was to mention that the annual performance information reported in the annual performance report of Seda, we could not confirm the credibility of that information based on the outcome of the program that was audited during our audit processes. So if I made mention of an annual report, the intention was to refer to the annual performance report, not the annual performance report. Thank you.
Here, if I may come in. I want to comment specifically on the investigation side. So if I go back to Honourable Faye's question regarding the weight breaches. So in that instance, the situation was not actually that the weight breaches were acquired by the beneficiaries of the funding provided by small business development. What happened is that the weight breaches was misrepresented as being bought by the beneficiaries. So the beneficiaries basically received the funding from the department, but they in actual fact never bought these assets. So there was a misrepresentation that assets belonging to somebody else was actually indeed purchased by them for purposes of misrepresenting in their application. And that's why in our management report, and I need to emphasize that our management report was already issued on the 25th of April, in 2019, and there was key recommendations in that management report that was made specifically regarding the importance of the inspections. So on the process in terms of granting these applications, there is specifically employees who are supposed to go out to these sites, inspect the assets, and part of that inspection then would then also inquire, if you inspect that asset at a specific premises, is to inquire regarding ownership of that asset and the premises. When we looked at these weight breaches, they were specifically on the premises of a completely different third party, as opposed to which was purportedly reflected in the application process. And hence the recommendation from our side being that, the inspection part of this is so critical, as well as the evaluation committee. So if you look at when these funding files or the funding applications is presented to an oversight committee, there's a detailed criteria in terms of documentations that needs to be made available, as well as certain requirements regarding the company itself, whether the company has got annual financial statements, what the status of those annual financial statements. And that is really to ensure that the funding by the department is presented to an entity that's actually running a proper business, or is in the process, of establishing that proper business. So from our side, a critical control in this entire process would be the inspections that need to be conducted, as well as that oversight from this evaluation committees in terms of evaluating the files and making sure, especially because when we looked at the files that was evaluated and approved, and a significant number of them at that time, the files were not complete. There was quite a number of key documents in those files that were missing, yet the approvals were still granted by the committee. So from our side, a critical part is these inspections. your question regarding, how do you prevent something like this? And we saw that even in some of the inspections that we subsequently, or the site inspections that we did, where the applicators will, or the beneficiaries will basically advise, but we got the funding from the department, but subsequently we basically sold the assets as we no longer wanted to continue the business. And the key issue there is, when this funding is presented to the beneficiaries and the contract is concluded, there's no clause in that agreement with the applicant that they need to maintain that asset, and that that they're not allowed to resell this asset. Or if they should want to resell this asset, that money within a certain period is then liable back to be paid to the department. So those are also some of the control mechanisms that can actually be put in place by the department to try and prevent this, because otherwise you do sit with a situation where individuals apply for funding, they get the funding, 2 or 3 months later, they sell that asset and they walk away with the cash. And you never see these businesses that the department and the mandate of the department is there to establish never actually takes course. And I think one of the key oversight areas that we also picked up is to say, there's no program in place by the department to see, if you take a sample of, we provided so many grant beneficiaries with grant funding, say over the last year, to go back 2 years and actually inspect how many of those businesses are actually still in business, and are they actually, thriving businesses. You see a lot of funding going out, but there's never a measure to control or to evaluate. The criteria we applied, is that yielding successful businesses at the end of the day? And I strongly advise that is something that the portfolio committee considers, to say, how do we bring alignment between providing funding to businesses, but then to also follow up whether that funding actually, eventually resulted in a proper small business entering the market and providing, employment opportunities on a smaller scale. So those are the two comments specifically on the weighbridge. When we talk about a public report, and I need to emphasize this, the purpose of the AG in terms of issuing a public report is not to name individuals. So whenever we issue a public report, it's a very summarized version, very similar to what you just seen on a presentation format. So from our side, our public reports are never detailed. They don't provide the name of individuals or third parties. And it's very critical to understand that, because one is that you'll see, for example, in this instance, where the parties did go through to CCMA for matter, they still have the option to, even if the CCMA does not provide the ruling that they wanted, they can approach the Labour Court. And number two, you are also sitting in this instance where the department was specifically asked to go and initiate criminal investigations on these matters. And it's for that reason that we don't issue public reports where there's individual names and entities identified in these, because you can actually impact on subsequent criminal investigations. So, if we look at why we are saying we don't recommend issuing this public report, is you're basically going to get a report which is very much a Word document of what we just presented to this committee in a PowerPoint presentation. And the question is, will that enable you to play the oversight that you then wishes to play? And I think that also is, if you look back at when we issued our detailed report, we specifically had detailed sessions with the committee to actually talk them through to the detail of these matters, where we raised the concerns regarding the detail of the findings, the way forward, and the recommendations. And the purpose of that is to equip the committee already back in 2019 to start playing that oversight role. And I think that's my concern, to the committee, is to say, the idea of a public report is not to enable you 2 or 3 years later to start playing an oversight role. The question regarding was the work performed, I think that speaks for itself. If you look at, the department being able to go through successful disciplinary processes, those processes would have only been successful if the work was done. I must emphasize that from our side, the reason of not recommending to issue a public report is we basically looking at it from what is the purpose of a public report? Will it name and shame individuals? And the answer is no. Will it provide the committee with additional information to play an oversight role? And the answer to that is actually no. If you want to see the detail of the work that we performed, we strongly suggest that you request from the department the final management report that we issued to them, because that provides you in detail all the findings we had, the control weaknesses we identified, the recommendations we made. And as I say, the purpose of that is then to equip the portfolio committee to actually take that oversight role during the course then, or a lot sooner from being able to deal with these matters. We have no objection to provide you with this PowerPoint presentation in a Word format. I think we are cautious that if we do so, that the cost associated with that cannot be argued later to say, but was this fruitless and wasteful? And did this add value to our oversight process? And I think that's part of the discussions that we're also having with management to say, we don't have an issue with issuing it, but we have to look at what would be the objective of issuing that report, and will it actually add benefit? We're all about value adding in terms of the services that we provide, and that is really what we are or have been posing to the department, is to say what benefit will be derived from issuing this. We have also debated with them, the necessity of having to present some of these findings in a close meeting again to the portfolio if that is necessary, like we did back in 2019. But those are some of the options that the committee can consider as opposed to the public report. But as I say, it really is a recommendation from our side, and we are keen to hear from the input from the committee. Thank you so much.
Sefa?
Chair, there is a hand.
Thank you, Chair.
Simtandile.
From whom?
Simtandile.
Okay, I will give her an opportunity. Let her allow. Yes, I know. Let her allow the one who presented on behalf of Sefa.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, in response to the 5,000 issue, I just want to provide clarity on the finding. It was actually a payment that was made towards a loan. So it was not the actual disbursement. It's just that on the allocation of payments towards loans, this was just misclassified. So one wouldn't necessarily say that there was a disbursement that was provided to an incorrect person in that manner. I hope that brings a bit of clarity, but it was still incorrect to then classify the payment to the person to which it was not intended to be. And then, Chair, on the question on the findings, I did listen to the findings that were highlighted by the member. They definitely did not affect Sefa. But yes, I do concur with the AGS also presented in my presentation. I did highlight the element of materiality and the thresholds within which we were working on. So findings were also assessed against materiality, and there were no material findings found, hence the clean audit opinions that we expressed. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks. She may come in from the Auditor General.
Chairperson, thank you very much. My name is Untitled, and I'm the chair of Sefa. Chairperson and honorable members, I thought it was appropriate for us to respond to the comment made by Honorable Hendricks Honorable Sefa board does not tolerate corruption. So we are very much disturbed that some of your constituencies are reporting clipping fees. I want to ask the committee members to work with us to deal with such instances. I also, Chairperson, for the benefit of everybody who's on this meeting, want to share that on the landing page of Sefa, we have a toll-free number to report fraud and corruption, even by our own people internally, especially by them. We are clear, honorable members, Sefa does not ask for fees. They don't ask for upfront payments. And if anybody at Sefa is doing that, we ask you to help us. And for the record, Chairperson, here's the number, 0800 000 663. And I repeat, 0800 000 663. And I think, Chairperson, we want to take this forward and say, members must please alert the department. If some of the constituencies can't call the toll-free number, we want to have real cases, and we'll ensure that we bring the auditors back in. We'll bring forensic investigators back in. It cannot be that any employee of Sefa is asking any member of society for a bribe. So, Honorable Chairperson, thank you very much for the opportunity to place on record what the Sefa process is, and I'm hoping that Chairperson and the committee members will help us to get society to understand how we work. Thank you.
Thank you, Spendile.
Chairperson,
Yes,
it is Honorable April.
yes.
I hear what the previous speaker, Simtandile, said, and I really support what she's saying, because it cannot continue unabated that we cast aspersions on persons in the department and on the department, because we are government at the end. And I really would want to also say that those who are casting these aspersions, on them is the honors to prove. And thank you for bringing the clarity and also giving us that number. We really appreciate it. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I believe we've exhausted the reports. Mine is to say thank you to the AG, to the auditors, both of them, and also the explanation by those who were investigating. I think it is still a process, because people can still appeal and the investigation can still be done along those issues which relates to criminal charges. Let's appreciate that maybe we may request them to update us along the way. We must not just wait for them to come and present while presenting the audit outcomes, but we're interested in receiving the updates on these matters, because that will show that both the Parliament and the department are serious about corruption, not to intervene or to interfere with the processes, but to be updated as a committee which is doing oversight. I think along those lines, they will continue assisting us. Now, what we'll do, we'll request our officials, because we're an organ which is doing oversight. At the end of those presentations, besides the one for investigation, which has been clarified why they can't finally now publish it, but they may deliberate with the department on those matters. But all those other processes must be allowed to flow, because it's part of our responsibility to do that. On the root causes, recommendation and commitments, there have been an overall cause and significance findings by the Auditor General. We will make some follow-up on that one, where the accounting officer have been summoned by certain responsibilities. That is going to be our role as the portfolio committee, because Auditor General's findings and recommendations must be adhered to. There is no fear or no favor on that one. So we're going to make sure that we follow up, we make some follow up on those recommendations and commitments by the accounting officer, as well as commitments by the executive authority, because the executive authority must make sure that she monitors the accounting officer. The accounting officer must make sure that systems are in place, all recommendations by the Auditor General are being adhered to, so that in the next financial year, we don't receive such, as well as what Honorable Jacobs has highlighted, and Honorable Matulele has indicated that we request that you be proactive, don't wait for us. I'm happy that we have responded on that one. But all in all, thank you so much for coming and for presenting those briefings. We will take it from there moving forward, but consider our request on the ones of the investigation. We don't want to see it Gubenelala. We want to make sure that we move together with the investigators up to the end, but will respect all those rules and laws which are in our country. Thank you so much. Bra King, I believe this was the last item on our agenda. Can we take us back to the agenda so that I can release our visitors? Yeah, you may be released, Auditor General, delegations. Thank you so much. We'll proceed with our agenda. We're left with one item. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Braking, can you take us to the last item, which is consideration of our last minutes?
Yes, Chairperson, these are the minutes of the meeting, the last meeting of the last term. It was the 28th of September, 2022. They were receiving a briefing on socio-economic impact assessment system by the Policy and Research Services branch in the Presidency. And we also considered and adopted the minutes, committee minutes of 21 September 2022. Page 1, the members were in attendance. From the department that were in attendance, and official from the Parliament staff in attendance. Then page 1, welcoming and opening by the chairperson and the objective of the meeting. Apologies that were forwarded to the committee. Briefing with the research, policy and research branch, which was led by Ms. Pulane Kole. And then after the presentation that was done, it was the committee considered and adopted the committee minutes of 21 September. And the deliberations were done. This is on page 4. On page 3, the resolution where that continuously engage CS unit for guidance as it has resolved to develop a committee amendment bill. Page 4, it was the chairperson's remarks. And it was closure at 12:30.
Thank you so much, Brakin. Can I have the mover since we got the minutes on time? I believe there are no corrections. Can I have a mover for the adoption of the minutes as a true reflection of what transpired?
Greetings, Chair. I move.
Thank you, Honorable Jacobs. Any seconder?
Greetings, Chair. I second. April.
Thank you, Honorable April. This brings us to the end of our meeting. What we are going to do, we're going to follow the recommendations by the AG and continue doing our oversight to our department. Thank you so much. The meeting stands adjourned.
Long live the chairperson.
Long live, long live.
Recording
long live.
stopped.
Thank you so much. Honorable April, you must call me after this meeting.
Okay, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bogodo.
Yebo, Honorable Matulelwa. Hope you are fine.
Hey, Mr.
Very fine.
I want to meet physical. I want to meet physical, Chair. I want physicality.
Yeah. Hey, I'm lekaya.
So,
yeah, msasekile swinene.
Mwananga.
Yeah, I can see them.
Sure.
So. Yeah, Honorable April, I know you did not hear anything what I was saying.